Morning, everyone. We have Coach Payton for the conference call. Megan, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick, and good morning, Coach. We'll begin with Parker Gabriel of the Denver Post. Go ahead, Parker.
Hey, Sean, good morning.
Good
When
morning.
you know a defensive coordinator as well as Vic, with the history you guys have, friendship and all of that, what is that matchup like? And what's the cat and mouse game between a play caller and a defensive coordinator in that regard any different when you know each other that well?
Yeah, look, number one, I've got a tremendous amount of respect for Vic. And I mean, he went to the same high school my father went to in Scranton. So long before we ever met each other, I have a niece, or excuse me, I have a cousin that taught him sixth grade math. But to your question, a lot's changed relative to teams, defenses, offenses. And Vic's one of those guys that's always stayed ahead of the curve. So, you're getting someone that is going to have a real good game plan, that's going to understand your strengths and weaknesses. You're going to have to be on point with the details. And, and that's one of his strengths. I mean, all the little things. So it's been a minute. I'm trying to think of, and again, there's more to this game than just our offense versus the Eagles defense, but there's a tremendous amount of respect on my part for him and what he's accomplished.
Mike Kliss, 9 News.
Yeah, Sean, Zach Taylor was saying last night that one thing that makes your defense so good at home is you take advantage of the environment and do a good job of timing the snap count. I guess in turn is the challenge for this defense, if it's going to be a great defense, it has to, step it up a notch on the road.
Well, look, you always look at the things that are a plus for you at home, and you want to take advantage of those. We up-tempoed some snaps on offense yesterday to hopefully tire them out some. Defensively, certainly, for every team in this league, when you travel, the snap count's more challenging for the offense on the road than it is at home. And so, when you're playing a team on the road, you don't have the head tilt, the silent snap count. You get more of an audio snap count. So, do we have to do all the little things well defensively against an offense like this? Absolutely.
Zach Stevens, DNVR.
Coach, the Bengals win after Riley Moss early in the game. How did you think he responded, and what did you think of his game?
I thought he played outstanding. We just finished going through the game with the team. He had one of his better games. He responded. I mean, that's a good group that we were playing against. And, the one thing, and I said this a year ago, that's a lonely position at times. But he is such a competitor. I thought he was fantastic.
Darren McKee, Altitude.
Coach, welcome to October, a quarter poll. I'm curious what you know about your team now that you didn't know about this team at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think that race that we always talk about of improving and finding the identity of what we're going to be, it still continues. There were a number of things on tape. Obviously, today's schedule is a little different because of the short week, but we'd be foolish if we didn't find a way to get the corrections taken care of from last night's game, and there are plenty of them. And so it's a quick turnaround, and the focus strictly has to be on Philly. It can't be on the following week going to London or any of those things. Short week, we got to get the recovery going. Players got to get rested. The study is going to be important. The plan is going to be important. And then, implementing it against a real good football team, obviously, on the road.
Andrew Mason, The Fan.
Yeah, Sean, kind of speaking of kind of where things are sort of big picture, you talked a lot about in the offseason about monitoring the snaps for guys like Nick Bonito, Zach Allen, sort of 4 games in, Nick Bonito about 60%, Zach Allen 80%. Kind of how do you feel about their playing time and how things are going forward for them?
Yeah, I think I've been pleased with it. We're doing a good job of looking at it. Yesterday was a time of possession game, and that was a game where, you know, the pitch count for us offensively was where we wanted it to be, and then defensively, that affords those guys time to rest. So we look at that. We just finished discussing it. You know, I'll get the first thing on my desk when I come in after a game is each player's snaps on defense, on offense, and in the kicking game. And it's the first thing we discuss in the staff meeting.
Jeff Legwold, ESPN.
Sean, just kind of with your competition committee hat on, what are your feelings about the tush push, and what would you ever do it as a coach?
Yeah, listen, I was one that stood up in favor of. The reason I stood up in favor of is pretty simple. If the powers to be don't want it for aesthetic reasons or competitive reasons, or it's hard to officiate, etc. But I've been involved in those meetings for a long time, and when all of a sudden health and safety was pulled into that, which might be the safest play in football, my bullshit nose kind of went up. And so, look, it's a quarterback sneak, and I think credit Philadelphia. They scored a touchdown last week. Take a peek at this past week's touchdown off the tush push look, and it was a sweep to the left. So I'm one that looks at it, as long as the line of scrimmage is clean, that it's a well-run quarterback sneak, and when you really evaluate it, it's more the technique of the sneak than the push. And so you go all the way back to Green Bay against Dallas in the Ice Bowl, and frickin' Bart Starr crosses the goal line with someone pushing a little bit behind him. I mean, so I was one that was in favor of leaving it alone, on Philly's side.
Coach, that appears to be all the questions we have for you today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.